You have accessed a Tech Net session of the Crossroads Ham Radio Club. Tonight's topic is, you think you want to work with satellites. Your host is Andy, KE7RTB, from Huffman, Texas.
Operating as November Alpha 1 Sierra.
Now I hear it.
From Charlie
From
November
what?
6. That's where I was. Let me kill my volume on my computer here. I'm sorry. I moved to Huffman, Texas in August of 2023, and I am now a member of the CRHRC Ham Radio Club. Wanted to bring information with me from my years of 20, 21, 22, and 23, working satellites and working as a grid master to be a grid master. I'll get into that a little later. I'm going to drop the repeater so I can reset my timer. And I'm back. I want you to beware. I caution you this endeavor is both fun, exciting, rewarding, and can be very costly. Or you can do it. We'll get into that later. Not to mention,
when new hams get their licenses, they generally purchase a handheld transceiver and get on the local repeaters. This is fun for a while, but don't get stuck just talking on the repeaters. Ham radio has much more to offer. For example, one of the other cool things you can do with a technician class license is work the birds, otherwise known as amateur radio satellites. Did you know that amateur radio operators have been sending satellites into space since the early 1960s? The orbiting satellite carrying amateur radio, or OSCAR for short, was successfully launched into a low Earth orbit on December 12, 1961. It carried a small beacon transmitter whose purpose was to study radio propagation through the ionosphere. It only lasted a few weeks before it dropped into the Earth's atmosphere and burned up, but it secured amateur radio's place in space. Now, there are dozens of amateur radio satellites in space, and as a technician, you can make contacts by bouncing your signals off of them. Think of them as repeaters in space. There are two basic types of satellites, FM satellites and linear transponders. The FM satellites are basically cross-band repeaters. You might, for example, transmit on a frequency, called the uplink, in the 2-meter band and receive on a frequency, called the downlink, in the 70-centimeter band. A satellite whose uplink frequency is in the 2-meter and downlink in the 70-centimeter band is said to be operating in mode VU.
some satellites have an uplink frequency in the 70-centimeter band and a downlink frequency in the 2-meter band. These satellites are said to be operating UV mode. I'm resetting the repeater. Stand by. And I'm going to just go off script here real quick. If you have some of the apps and have been playing with the apps, you'll see those on the apps on your phone for trying to locate the satellite. Going back onto script. The International Space Station, ISS, is now equipped with a mode V/U repeater. Its uplink frequency is 145.990, and its downlink frequency is 437.800 megahertz. It requires a CT/CSS tone of 67 hertz. Doppler effect. In ham radio, the Doppler effect manifests as a shift in the received frequency of radio signals from moving sources like satellites, causing a perceived change in frequency as a source approaches or moves away. Going to go off script real quick. You're out in the woods, and you got a big train track moving around from one side to the other. When the train comes through a tunnel, it makes a loud noise. That frequency is different as it gets closer and closer to you. Doppler's shift is kind of in the same manner. Going back on script. And I didn't mean to unhook, but now I will reset the timer here. How it affects ham radio. When a satellite passes overhead, its radio signals experience a Doppler shift as the satellite speed relative to the ground station changes. Frequency shift. As the satellite approaches, the received frequency appears higher than the actual transmitted frequency, a blue shift. Conversely, as the satellite moves away, the received frequency appears lower, a red shift. Impact on satellite communications. This frequency shift can make it difficult to maintain communication with satellites, especially on frequencies where the shift is more pronounced, like 70 centimeters. K7's HT channel allocations. I utilize the FT3s and the FT5s. I prefer those two radios. One, they have a chip inside them, and you can record the communication to the satellite and hear on the other end as well. So the downlink for the ISS is 437.800. So think of entering 5 channel allocations in your mobile radio or your HT radio. Channel 1 allocation on the receive side is 437.790. 2 is 437.795. 3 is the primary frequency of the ISS receive of 437.800. 4 is 805, and 5 is 810. So as the satellite is coming over the horizon from far away, I'm on channel 5. You'll hear it break up, and then you switch to 4, and it comes in clear. And then you switch to 3, and it's really clear, and the satellite's probably overhead at that point in time. As the satellite's going away from you, you'll hear it, fuzzy, and you go 795 and 790. Why I list this is most people don't realize Doppler shift, and they're just on 437.800. And they might hear some things, but they will not hear the whole conversation that's going on. So you can copy that satellite from horizon to horizon. My timer just went off. I'm going to unkey the mic. This is for ID Kilo Echo 7. Return to base.
0, 3, 2, timeout.
Okay, back on. That's just one thing that the ISS has to offer. Another thing the ISS has to offer is an APRS. The APRS is not your standard one like you're used to on 144.390. The onboard APRS frequency is 144 negative, 145.825. And if you're lucky enough to get a packet up or download a packet, you can go to CRHRC.net and see exactly who put packets into the space station and who took them out, and possibly make a QSO. Small ITZ placed the links on the CRHRC website, so you can peruse those and play with those later. Another advantage of the ISS is SSTV. So on certain times, we'll get into that later on how to tell when they're doing it and when they're not doing it. The ISS sends out pictures that you can receive, download, and have. Listed school time contact frequencies. The ISS is really into working with schools. They do not do it on the primary frequencies you and I listen to or use, but those are listed frequencies also that you can find. And if you're in the vicinity of the school that is scheduled to do space stuff, you can listen in on your radio as well. I'm going to unkey. I got 24 seconds here, so I'm going to reset the timer. K7RTB. Ham radio satellite antennas. One of the cool things about working with the FM satellites is that you don't need a lot of sophisticated equipment. A couple of ATs or an HT capable of duplex operation and a handheld dual-band Yagi, as shown on the next few slides, will do. There are 2 differently used antennas for satellite work. One is the Aero 2 portable. It consists of 2 Yagi antennas, 3-element 7-element 70 centimeters on a common boom. The 2 antennas are at right angles to one another. You can purchase this antenna with a duplexer, and it lets you connect this to a single radio without the duplexer, which lets you connect it to 2 separate radios. The one that I prefer is the ELK antenna. Having both 2 meter and 70 centimeters in a compact 2-foot-long package without having to bother with a duplexer is just a real lifesaver to most operating environments. From bouncing signals off of satellites to working simplex 2 or 3 counties away, you cannot go wrong with an ELK 2-meter 440L5. All ELK 2-meter 440L models come with a handle for handheld operation, making this antenna perfectly set up for satellite, DFing, direction finding, and emergency communications, and very portable operation. The feed line on all ELK antennas is from the front of the antenna. The end where you connect the feed line is where you point the antenna. This is a photograph for those of you on Zoom, and my little French bulldog there. I took the ELK antenna. When chasing satellites, you get tired with your arm, so I made that PVC pipe deal, and I can point it at the satellite utilizing the devices we'll get into later, so I can track the whole path of the satellite. The next slide is the Aero satellite antenna I included. It's big, heavy, cumbersome, and you need to rotate from left to right for not Doppler shift, but phasing. So you got to phase it right or phase it left. And there went my timer. We're going to unkey and come back. This is Kilo Echo 7, Romeo Tango Bravo. Back in, finding a satellite. If you're a do-it-yourself type, these antennas are not difficult to build. A cheap Yagi antenna for satellite work can be built using a wooden boom or a stiff copper wire or welding rod, or a tape antenna. You can build one of these at a fraction of the cost of buying one. Once you have the gear, you need to be able to find out when the satellites will be in view. Remember, this is all line-of-sight operation. You can only work the satellites if they are above the horizon. For finding out when the satellites will be above the horizon, you may use November 2 WhiskeyOscar.com website. The amateur radio satellite passes page shows you which satellites will be passing above the horizon at your location for the next 6 hours and provides the uplink and downlink frequencies and the start time and end time with the azimuth and elevation information. You need to point your antenna at the satellite. Phones, apps. I use a Droid and an Apple. I have 2 phones when I'm out and about. I've listed a few programs you can download. ISS Detector is my preferred app of choice. You have Satellite Tracker, you have ISS Tracker, you have SatSat, SkyLive, and GoSat Watch. Operating the satellites can be a lot more fun than just talking to your hams on local repeaters. Aside from making sure your signal can hit the repeater, there's really no challenge in that. Working the satellites, on the other hand, can be a lot more engaging. It's a true test of your operating and technical skills. Basic items needed. Number 1 is the desire. Number 2, radio, either an HT, a mobile, or a base station. You can get the base station a little later. I've operated the ISS from my vehicle. Your normal HTs, just with a rubber antenna, isn't really resetting the timer right now. And back on. HTs, you really need a better antenna. Yes, you can get it when it's overhead, but you're not getting the full advantage of it. Antennas. You have Homebrew, the Elk, the Arrow, or an LEO, which is a low Earth orbit, which is utilized usually the base station and a very expensive ASU rotor and devices that tune your radio for you for Doppler, computer aided. We'll get into that at a later time. You need a tripod and or a stand. You need a paper and a pen. You need a recorder. I prefer this handy dandy little Sony here that you won't be able to see, and it's the PX470, or a radio that has capabilities of recording the conversation, because they can happen really fast, and it's a pile up and a half. And then you need your stat tracking tools, apps. I prefer a compass because I don't always trust my phone. I double check, I check and double check, trust but verify. And a GPS. You need cables and connectors. A normal fat coax is not comfortable, so I use from ABR here in Houston these lovely cables I've been buying for years, and had no clue ABR was right here in our backyard here. And then you, of course, need connectors. You got to take your SMA into this little cable, and then a 239 SO239. I got 24 seconds. Tips and tricks. You got to know the uplink and the downlink. You got to adjust for Doppler. Doppler, you're only adjusting on the receive side. You don't really have to worry about Doppler going into the bird, but coming out of the bird, i.e., the ISS, Doppler will play with you. You got to know the degrees of elevation and the polarity. And there goes the timer, so we're going to reset the microphone. K7RTV. Microphone is reset. You also need to know proper etiquette. You never want to call CQ on an FM bird. You only call CQ on the sideband birds. We'll get into that later. Short, sweet, and to the point. And grid squares. Grid squares are everything on doing doing the satellite. That's kind of how you confirm where you're at. So it's very important to know your grid squares. QSL recordings, I record all my satellite transmissions, and I have tons of them on my computer. I don't know which one to show you today or let go, and I didn't test it. Good and bad, cell phone tools, and grid chasing. And we'll get into that later, and changing grids. Final thoughts. I want to give credit to Dan Romacek, Kilo Bravo 6 November uniform, because I took a thing that he had posted, and then I plagiarized it and added and removed things. And you can look at November 2, November Whiskey Kilo. He's a satellite chaser out of Washington, D.C., and he's a big POTA guy, and he does POTA with satellites, so that's quite fun. Kilo Oscar 4, Papa Delta India. Put that in YouTube, and he has numerous videos on the LEO system that he utilizes. He sits just behind the desk, uses his fancy radio, points the antenna, he records everything, and there's numerous videos of him and I making contacts, except I'm outside with a colander on my head, my handheld HT. I'm pointing it at the satellite that's traveling 17,400 miles per hour and tumbling. That's why you need to rotate your wrist to change things. And then you can look on my QRZ, Kilo Echo 7 Romeo Tango Bravo, and I have a lot of tips and tricks on satellites, and I got to drop the repeater and come back. And I'm kind of racing through this. I apologize, folks, but everything I said, you can contact me. I'm current on QRZ. I will help anyone that has the desire and wants to make a QSO on a satellite. It's not as hard as it sounds, but you got to know what you're up against there. And I know those inexpensive $35 radios. I am very anti those radios, but I understand that it's a gateway drug into this hobby. GMRS is also a gateway drug into it. A thorough lover of Yaesu type radios. And that is the end of the air portion, and I will hand it over to the main person here. KE7RTB.
Wow, that is exciting stuff, Andy. I certainly learned a lot. Would like to give a big thanks to Andy. Great job. Okay, this is Mike, KB9MEQ on the W5 LCR repeater system with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's monthly Tech Net session. At this time, we're going to open the net for any tech questions or comments specific to tonight's presentation. We'll take a few call signs at a time, like 5, and then call on each of them for your questions or comments. Anyone with questions or comments regarding the presentation, please give your call sign now, followed by your name, slowly and phonetically. All right, I'm not hearing any questions, and I'm not seeing any questions on the Zoom. We'll give it one more time. Any questions for tonight's TechNet session?
Whiskey 5 India Tango Zulu W5ITZ. Okay, C5RXW.
Kilowatt Bravo 5, Papa Bravo Mike, Robert.
All right, why don't we go ahead and start with the questions, recognizing W5ITZ. Go ahead with your question, Bill.
Well, good evening, folks. I joined a little bit late, so I apologize if this content may have been covered. But specifically for Andy, I've got my FT991A with the default transmit and receive frequencies for ISS, and I can hear passes quite often. However, when I try to work the ISS and adjust for Doppler, it totally messes up the memory channel that I've configured, and then everything goes down from there. Any quick advice on how to easily set that up and work it from the 991A?
K7RTB. I was waiting for it to drop. I have the 991 Alpha, two of them, and I haven't worked the ISS from it. But I have the Yaesu 7250 in my car. I work it numerous times, and I have the HTs. So what I suggest is you have those 5 receive frequencies in with the same transmit frequency in 5 different channel allocations. So I would have to go back to the screen here. So as I listed on the PDF, page 12, the primary for the ISS on receive, UHF, is 437.800. So I go up 5, which is 437.805 in channel allocation 4, and up 5 more, which would be 10 at 437.810 on channel allocation 5. And then from 2, you go down 5, 437.795, and channel 1 is 437.790. So in theory, when the ISS is coming into view, you want to be on channel allocation 5 with the same primary transmit frequency and all 5 of those channel allocations. And you will hear more of it than you'll hear it getting fuzzy because of Doppler. You switch it to channel 4, it'll come in clear. Does that handle your question for you, my friend?
That's good info, Andy. Yes, sir. That helps, and I apologize. I joined after that slide presentation, but I'll go back and review the presentation and program those frequencies into my memories, and we will attempt to work ISS on future passes. Thank you very much. W5ITZ, back to net.
Very good. KC5RXW, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And just wanted to ask Andy if he would be interested in coming out to one of our events, maybe Field Day or our Hamfest event coming up in November, and doing a live presentation, tracking satellites. Because I'd be interested in checking that out and seeing how it works. Kind of all Greek to me, kind of goes right over my head just listening, but would love to see it in person.
KC5RXW, I could do that, and I got a little added bonus here if we're okay on time, and this was August 15th of 2022, and it's near and dear to me, and I'm going to hit play right now. So I hope that came out across fine. And to answer your question, I would love to do that given time constraints and employment constraints, but I'm sure that'll be quite doable, and we can get that on the near calendar, and I can bring some extra goodies out because I have both antennas. To be in all fairness, I have an ICOM base station, but I don't have ICOM portables. But I can bring out some Yaesu portables and 2 antennas. I have 3 antennas. I can bring 3 antennas out, and we can play around and put smiles on people's faces. KE7RTB to KC5RXW.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and I will get back with you on shoot you an email or something and get with the coordinator for Field Day and see what he thinks. But we'll go from there. Appreciate it, Mike. Doing a good job out there. KC5RXW.
Very good. Great question, Scott. All right, KB5. PBM, Robert, go ahead with your question.
I just had an easy question. So is it hard to track the satellite just by, I guess you just move the antenna by hand? You said you had a tripod, but I mean, they pass pretty quick, like within what, 20, 25 seconds? Quick question on that. KB5 PBM.
KB5 PBM, no. It travels at 17,500 miles per hour, and your normal passes on the ISS are 6 to 10 minutes. You can have 3-minute passes, but most of them are about 6 minutes to 10 minutes. And when you have Doppler set up appropriately, you can ride that like a bull rider. You can be in for the full ride with having Doppler set right. There's other FM birds out there that you can get for the same time as well. And then there's a sideband birds. Some of those you can get for 15 and 20 minutes, and we can have QSOs. That's a lot more complex and a whole nother day and show. I just wanted to stick with the FM birds. But no, it's not a few minutes. It's 6 to 10 minutes. And with the proper equipment and knowledge, and yes, you're pointing your arm at the satellite, but the antennas can. So I fashioned a little deal, if you saw the photograph, from a hardware store with PVC pipe, because you have a phone that you're utilizing to track. You have pen and paper if you're writing, but that's kind of next to impossible. And then you have a recorder, and yes, it happens fast. 6 minutes is real fast, and you're excited when you hear people talking and want to get them, and you got to wait for someone else to close their pie hole so you can get your pie hole in there and try to get on it. Talking on the ISS is very challenging because new hams get in there and they hear they can do it, and they don't have the proper etiquette or time and a big thing to sit back and listen. I'll get into some other things here later, maybe with the next question. I'm not checking my timer. KE7RTB, back to Robert.
Okay, I appreciate it. KB5PBM.
Very good, Robert. Thanks for the question. Continuing, Andy, this is Mike, KB9MEQ. Just with a quick follow-up question. The question is, if the space station passes 6 minutes, how long does it take to come back around?
90 minutes, guys. That thing circles the Earth in 90 minutes. Now, when it comes back around, it's on a different path because it's circling around. And at one time, it'll come around and be directly overhead. It'll be a phenomenal path. And then the next time it comes around, it circles around. It's not over you. It's up. I don't know how many degrees, but it's up, and then it's further, and it's further. But it only takes the space station at 17,500 miles per hour 90 minutes to circle the Earth.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Okay, this is Mike again with the W5LCR repeat system with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's monthly Tech Net session. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this presentation? If so, please give your call sign followed by your name phonetically and slowly, and we'll recognize you now.
November 7, Foxtrot Golf Papa. November 7, Foxtrot Golf Papa. Scott in Houston with a question.
Recognizing N7, Foxtrot Golf Papa. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, Andy. Great presentation. I was following along on the slides, and are you using 2 radios or just one FT5?
I only use one radio, so I'm not listening to myself, which is not the most ideal situation. So I'm half duplex. I am not full duplex. I could do 2, but you're doing so much. It's so busy. You're checking your phone. You're looking at the compass. You're pointing your antenna. You're moving your antenna. You're getting excited. You're getting happy. And I can make 3 to 7 QSOs on one pass. That's not all the time. And believe me, there are many and many. I was going through audio recordings all day today, and I had a lot of misses. But when there's hits and good hits, you can make 3 QSOs. You can make 7 QSOs. They're quick and rapid. And I hope I answered your question. November 7, Foxtrot, Golf Papa, Scott. K7RTB. And anyone that wants to hit me up offline, I will help you attain the goal. Because we didn't even talk about Gridmaster. That's another thing you can look up on my QRZ page.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, that answered the question. N7FGP, clear.
Super, Scott. Great question. Any other questions relating to the presentation, please come now.
AJ Fox, EDO. There's a question in the Zoom chat from Gary N5GBR. He asks, will you be discussing base stations during this session?
I can. I thought we wanted some brevity on the RF portion. We can definitely talk about base stations and opening up your wallet. I have a lovely ICOM IC9100 here that is purchased primarily to do the base station operations of them, but that's up to whomever says how much time I have here. K7RTB, back to the group.
Hey, Andy, I think we've got a little bit of time here. If you want to, take 5 minutes or so and try to drop into that topic, that subtopic, you can cover it in kind of that amount of time.
Roger, Roger. K7RTB. So with a base station, you can do FM birds too, but the sideband birds are where you need to really have the device or the tool. There's numerous ones out there. I don't want to benefit one company over another, but C10, I'll give that one out there. And that's an interface that's tied into your radio. And then you have a wonderful Yaesu rotor that does azimuth, and it's called caliparians. So you need caliparians for each satellite, and that's basically let's call it the GPS of the satellite, that the computer and the radio know where to point. Go to Kilo Oscar 4 Papa Delta India. His home system, you go on YouTube and type in Kilo Oscar 4 Papa Delta India, if that's the correct call sign. I just said, yeah, Kilo Oscar 4 Papa Delta India. And you can see him do it. Basically, the rotor points at the antenna. The antenna is a LEO, low Earth orbit. You have UHF on one side, you have VHF on the other side, and it does azimuth and position. So it spins around, points up, points down, follows the whole pass. But the device, computer-aided devices, the interface with your ICOM 9100 or whatever fancy system you have, also adjusts for Doppler. So all you're doing is sitting there with your headset and writing down your QSOs and contacts. And I've made 15 and 20 contacts on sideband passes. RS-44, they're not coming to me right off the top of my head. Also, the second device that we put on the website, and I'm going to have to let it drop, I think, K7RTB. There are two new devices. Oh my goodness. ITZ put them on for us in the member section. One is CRHRC.net. Get on there, look at that, and each time the ISS passes over, it populates new data of all the APRS things that it saw, and it puts it on the map. So you can see if you got a home system like Walter's is keyed up all the time, and you see it, Walter Hotel, Whiskey Hotel. The other one is the AMSAT, amsat.org. Get on there, get on the satellite status, and you can see when the ISS went over and how many operators vetted it and said they made contact on it. There's colored squares there. The purple ones are when an astronaut made communications with someone. So you got red, means it's a problem, didn't work. Green, and then the numbers, hover your cursor over it, and you'll see how many operators made contact with another operator on the ISS, or the various other satellites that you're able to do communications with. So, if you're going to go fishing, you want to make sure there's fish there. I'm the same way with the satellites. I don't go and play with the satellites until I look at the previous day, current day, or past day's activity, because some of those things have been up there a long time and the batteries are dead. You cannot use an FM bird at night. They can't recharge their batteries. The ISS, you can. It has its own power plant. But an FM bird or a CubeSat, you are not to use them at hours of night. They have no way to recharge their batteries. KE7RTB, back to the group. Hope that answered the question that was asked there.
Yeah, I think that was it. Thanks, Andy, and thanks, Gary, for a great question. Any other questions in relation to the satellite topic? All right, this is Mike on the W5 LCR repeater system with the Crossroads Ham Radio Club's Tech Net 17. At this time, we're going to open the net for any amateur radio tech related questions. So any questions, we'll take a few call signs at this time and then call on each of you for your questions. Anyone with a tech related question, call now, slowly and phonetically. Thank you. Okay, one more time. Any other non-presentation related technical ham radio questions? Come now. All right, super. I did want to open up for any announcements. Bill, K5LK, are you out there?
Hey, Mike, good evening. Yeah, a little late comer here, but I'm here, K5LK. I was going to ask just a general question, tech-related question. Can I just throw it out to the group?
Absolutely, sir. Come on with your question.
Yeah, I just, we've been talking about TechNet maybe doing a discussion, a net around DX. There's kind of been some pros and cons, but I think introduction to DX at the highlight of the sunspot cycle might be really interesting to a lot of folks. I'm currently not on HF, haven't been for a couple of years, but is anybody online that's been active on HF here the last 6 months or a year? I want to talk about the band conditions. I know we're at the top of cycle 25. Just kind of curious, Mike, if anybody has any quick comments about the HF band conditions. Back to you, Mike, K5LK. Then I'll do the announcement after that. If anybody else doesn't have anything.
Sure. Well, let me tee it up, Bill. That's a great question. I know there were like 18 plus people out at the POTA this Saturday, and we were all working HF, different bands, and had different success levels with the different bands. But it was great, and I think we've got some very experienced, some folks with a lot of HF experience in here. So I don't know, anyone that was out there, or anyone wanna come back with an answer for Bill?
Okay, Stone RTB. Well, I had over 80 contacts today. 40 was very lively. 30's been very lively. We're at the top of the solar cycle. However, there have been some flares that caused some problems, but you wouldn't know it because I'm making 10,000-mile HF contacts in Indonesia, Vietnam, Australia. I worked the gray line in the morning, and 10 meters was active until we started this net. I had 40-some 10-meter contacts. Paraguay, Chile, Brazil, Uruguay, Japan. So I'm not seeing a dip in it at all, but it's supposed to be going downhill. K7RTV, back to group.
Thanks, Andy. Great response. Anyone else wanna chime in? KB9 MEQ. Well, Bill, I know that on Saturday on 10 it was tough in the morning. We did get, I don't remember what it was. I think it was probably less than 15 contacts on 10, but they were all kind of south. We had not all, but we had quite a few from coming in from South America, which was kind of cool. And had really good success on 20. All of our 40 on Saturday we were making the long trek to Houston, it seemed like, but that was fun too. So yeah, I would concur with Andy. It's hopping now. It may not be hopping in 6 months. All right, Bill. Did that get you the information you needed? K5LK from KB9MEQ.
Yeah, you bet, Mike. I'm sure we'll talk about it more and see if there's some interest in maybe doing a presentation discussion around HF band conditions. Just something to throw out to the group. Back to you, and if anybody else doesn't have any questions, general about ham radio technical questions, I'll do the announcement. K5LK.
W5BSA with the question.
W5BSA, go ahead.
Good evening. Really enjoying your presentation. You know, earlier you mentioned the FT5 and the 5 frequencies that you would literally turn manually during the Doppler shift phase of working the satellites. And I was just curious if you're familiar with the Anytone 878. I'm sure you probably know Walter K5WH. And I understand there's a code plug out there for the Anytone 878 HT that you can put in there, and it will do that automatically for you. Plus, it'll actually give you some kind of notice of upcoming satellite passes. So forgive me if you've already mentioned that, but are you familiar with it? And where do I go to get that code plug to do that?
Well, checking. I'm quite familiar with the 878. I have 3 of them here in front of me, but I have not even fired them up here in Texas because they're all programmed up with Tacoma, Seattle stuff. I know that I just got on the website, Texas something or other for DMR, but I would suggest Walter. I did not know that setting that you mentioned. I'm not aware of that or that code plug, but you get a hold of me offline and let's work on that together so I can make these 3 878s be viable for me once again. K7RTB, back to the group, and I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's literally, once you get it in there, it'll notify you almost like a notification on your cell phone that it's upcoming. It'll tell you what the satellite is, and then it adjusts the Doppler shift during that pass for you. So it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I'll be reaching out to you.
I'm going to come back. I got it one more time, I think. Yeah, so I plan my day with a satellite pass. I look at them coming up, and I set multiple alarms in my iPhone 10 minutes or 5 minutes prior to the pass. And AO91, PO101, those are FM birds. ISS, another FM bird. AO27, and I program those in if it's a viable pass when I see the elevation and relative position of the satellite to my place on Earth. If it's below 20 degrees or 10 degrees, I'm not going to waste my time. But if it's a 30-degree pass, I want to stand out there with my colander and my antenna and my recorder and all my good stuff and point my antenna towards the stars and try to make a contact there. So K7RTB group.
Hey, thanks very much, W5BSA.
Hey, Joe, great question. And yeah, we're getting some responses in the Zoom too. I think it'd be a great idea to have the in-person session. So we'll have to work toward that. That's awesome. All right. Any other questions for the presentation, for ham radio in general, before we hand it off to announcements?
November 5 Golf Bravo Romeo on Echolink.
All right, November 5 Golf Bravo Romeo. Go ahead with your question.
I'm just curious if there's going to be a Tech Net in the future on sideband, either 2 meter or 70 centimeter.
That is a great question, and we can certainly put it on the list to have that session down the road. I'm not sure if we've done it previously, but we can certainly research that and put it on the list. That sounds like a good topic.
Yeah, Mike, thank you. Been in the hobby 50 years this year, but I'm just coming back into it after 15 years away. And I never was involved in sideband on 2-meter or 70 centimeter, but I see it's available. I'm just curious about it. There's N5 GBR out.
Gary, it's a great question. I'm interested in sideband too on FM. I think it's a great topic, and I would love to figure it out. So we'll talk about it. All right. If there's no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Bill K for a couple of announcements.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of announcements. Reminder, our Ham Fest, first annual Crossroads Ham Radio Ham Fest, will be 7 months from tomorrow on November the 8th, Saturday, November the 8th. Tomorrow's April the 8th. It'll be in Louise, Texas. There'll be more about it over the next couple of months, but save your date on your calendar. You're going to hear a lot more about it. We'll be promoting it quite a bit here over the next several months, so it ought to be a lot of fun. That's Saturday, November 8th in Louise. Then also, you may have seen some of the work that Scott, KC5RXW, and folks have been putting this raffle together. It is live. Just go to CRHRC.org/raffle, and it has got some awesome prizes. I'll just mention the first prize is the ICOM 9700 base station kit, $2,300 value. The second station is the Yaesu FTM 510 mobile kit, $810 value. Third prize, the Yaesu FT 891 POTA kit, $1,055, value, and there's about 6 or 7 more. So it is awesome. One ticket is just $25, 5 tickets for $100. Go to CRHRC.org/raffle, and the prizes will be awarded on Saturday, November the 8th at the Ham Fest. Some more information on that to come as well. It's an awesome, awesome raffle. Back to net, K5LK. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Bill. Two great items there coming down the road. So watch our email newsletters for more information. All right, we're gonna now wrap up tonight's TechNet RS session. Remember that we'll stay on Zoom for a Rag Choose session after the net. So if you have more questions, come on over to the net. Come on over to the Zoom. All right. Well, I wanted to thank everyone that participated in tonight's TechNet number 17. Also, we want to give a big thanks to all the TechNet team members who helped in making tonight's net a success. If you have any questions regarding this TechNet or would like to join the TechNet team, you can send an email to info@crhrc.org. Again, please note that many of us will remain in the Zoom session for a general Rag Choose, so please join us there. I will now close the RF session of the Crossroads Ham Radio Monthly TechNet. This is Mike, KB9MEQ, and we'll be returning the repeaters back to normal amateur use. 7-3, and good night all.
You have been listening to a TechNet presentation of the Crossroads Ham Radio Club. For more information on this club, go to www.crhrc.org. For information on upcoming TechNets, go to technet.crhrc.org.